could have any car in the world, it doesn't have a price, year, welcome to your ultimate car. You can go back in time and get one, or Lamborghini, whatever Hudson.
I already have them.
Cadillac? I told you to use the Cadillac too. XLR? That's your ultimate car. I hope I can do this. I wrote it down. So they only gave me 2 hours to do this. So I hope the food will last. I had to write it bigger, so I did a bigger copy. Probably need a handkerchief. Oh my God. Blue or red, right? Okay. All right. Sad to come to weddings or funerals, and that's all it seems to be now. So there'll be more weddings, because funerals are getting sucky. So it's almost 24 years to the day. I went to get Jesus. I'll read it. I lost my brother and my dad. The 2 most important people in my life on earth. I might just have to read this. All right. First, I want to just thank everyone. I appreciate our family for everyone being here. And truly friends, family, people who work with my dad, family who's grown up with my dad. It's just a blessing. I don't think there's maybe one person in this room that we never helped in any way, but tools or advice or plumbing, electrical, roofing, or advice, just how to do something. So I know he's touched a lot of people. He's really set the bar high. He would hate for me to cry. So, toughen up. What are you laughing at? He would say. What's so funny? All right. I only got 10 pages here, so I got to read it quick. All right. I also want to thank the church, especially the Moffats, for opening up this venue. And you, my sister. And I want to thank Rachel for putting the video together, the eulogy, and Brian Kingley for videotaping. And of course, my wife for most of the food and this. So, just appreciate your time, and for Jeff doing the eulogy. He's my brother and my dad. So. All right. I grew up with a granny, a mumsy, a big Pete, a Nana, a little Pete, and later there's Gump and Gummy. I'm going to talk about the man I knew as dad. Laugh right here. All right. This is my perspective. So this is, I like to call it the good, the bad, the ugly. So some of this you don't know, some of it you do, but this is me growing up. I thought about my dad. Oh, the guy who laughed at this, Steve Johnson, really good laugh. All right. Let's see. So, some people thought my dad was eccentric, eclectic, a collector, a thrifter, a hoarder, a junk dealer. Sanford and Son. I remember as a kid, most people looked for RVs or camping trailers. We would go up the highway on 272nd. There was an Army duck, a lot. And they had like 5 Army ducks they'd sell. And my dad was like, well, let's buy one of those and make that an RV. And we go over the river, to the lakes, and over the land. Some people thought about adding to their house. We needed some extra room. We moved from a big house to a small one. Why not bring a caboose and build it, put it in the right place and tracks, put a caboose under next to your house, and that could be the bedrooms. I remember a teardrop camping trailer, a flatbed old Ford pickup truck that I never saw it drive, but he'd sit on the back and raise all over. What else? It just seemed like everything he got never fulfilled that. I remember a boat, dragging it down the block from our neighbors up the street, because one day he was going to restore it or fix it. It always turned out big playrooms for me and my brother and sister and friends, so it was like the coolest thing to have a caboose and play ball keg. And then to drive in a ship, and my sister inherited that. She had a boat in her backyard for many years. Fought her like water. But he never seemed to get around to putting them in use. So, but it sure used that. We used that, got a lot of use out of it. There's always building material left over from a job or something you found on the side of the street, and it just turned into a tank turn or a submarine hatch, and we just play in the backyard for hours. He collected coffee mugs. I forget how many he had lining his ceiling or his garage. I want to say 1,000. I don't know. But they all had little sayings on them. What is that?
That's probably right.
Probably about 1,000. So nowadays everybody's got the cute sayings on t-shirts. But before that was a little knickknacks he would collect at the secondhand store, and you didn't have the cell phone to take a picture, you had to have it. So if you ever went to Granny's house, there's always a big little Pete's house, knickknacks, little sayings, cute things. But I don't know if it's compulsive, but it's a lot of coffee mugs. He's got a little miniature statue of Liberty in his backyard, about 8 feet tall. If this is something unique, that was what he liked. It was just being different. I remember my brother got a little Honda 90 motorcycle, and then I got one. Then my sister got one. Then my mom got one. And I think there was a spare one. And then he had to build a motorcycle trailer. He had to weld it. I think it held 8 or 10 motorcycles. And we'd go up and ride the power lines of Black Diamond or Factoria before the Honda dealership was there, T-Mobile. We'd ride that hill down by, just below our house, the landfill by the hydro pits. So it just, I don't know you just always had to do it a lot, whatever you did. So he reminded me of Clint Eastwood a lot. He was just kind of good or bad, he was just even keeled. And so I like to call this little section the good, the bad, the ugly. I remember watching that with him. So the Ronnie family, what he grew up in, were hard workers, entrepreneurs. Granny was always raising 3 kids, doing whatever it took. My Uncle Pete, collector, 1,000 salt and pepper shakers for the secondhand store. We're always just thrifters and collectors. The one thing I call this the ugly is because alcohol. That family, alcohol was just the norm. And so my dad grew up in that. And I'm not blaming his family, that's just how it was. I don't think they knew any better. And that's what my dad grew up in. And he was in the paper for wrecking his car in 990. And it used to have a divider. I don't know how many cars he wrecked. I remember the missed birthdays. I remember the missed Christmases. I remember, I know this is supposed to be happy, but I got to tell you how it is. Coming home drunk, passed out, left my mom for a couple years. Going to rehab. I remember taking the AA meetings because he was court ordered. I remember a suspended license I'd taken to work. And I don't know how many AA meetings I sat through, but he never shared, which I don't think is part of the program. I think you're supposed to talk. But that was also my dad. I should have typed this out. I remember growing up wishing our family was like other families. It seemed like the family unit was together, not dysfunctional, and being envious. I remember all his money he would say was paying for his lawyer to buy the lawyer's Cadillac. his nice car. So, but he was a happy drunk. He wasn't violent. He'd come home and tell the latest jokes from the bar that may be inappropriate for me at my age, and my brother and sister. Probably over my head, most of them. I remember coming home, my mom would just be angry and yelling at him, and we'd go upstairs, and I'd just say, Mom, don't. I want to stay home. It wasn't until years later I realized the pain he put my mom through. Infidelity, not knowing when he was coming home. He'd be gone for weeks. Blacked out. And again, this is my perspective. This is what I grew up with. Not knowing if he was coming home. But this was normal for me. Before that, he was in the Navy, where he'd be out at sea for 6 months. So I was used to him not being around. But I remember being a kid, and there's a picture of his old band, one of his aunts at D.W. Close. You'd hear it about a block away, squeaky with all the ladders on top, and you'd always do a U-turn at our corner and park. And it was like the two best words I ever heard was, Dad's home. He was home. I heard his truck. Some of you might say my words are, let's eat. I had to throw a comedy in there, but all right, that didn't go well. All right. The good. My dad tried. He did. And again, alcohol was a big stumbling block for him. I remember getting a guitar. We all got guitars, and all of a sudden I'm in a community guitar lesson with the family. I didn't sign up for that. I didn't I don't want to practice. I don't know how many on top of Old Smoky we played. Then I remember him trying to teach us how a combustible gas motor works. And he'd have a little chalkboard, and we were at the dining room table, and he's drawing out, camshaft, crankshaft. Of course, my brother, just whatever, he would just make me laugh. And we'd all just start laughing for my brother, and he'd get frustrated, like, you guys will need this down the road. And we just, whatever. And, but I remember that, just like, now I wish I listened more, working on my cars. I remember spring break trips to Mount Rushmore, the Badlands, one down to Disneyland, where we drove all night, got to LA one day after work. We didn't really take summer vacations, it was kind of spring breaks. If we did summer, it was usually his mom, Granny, out in Soap Lake, and those were like not vacations for us kids. You can't swim in that water, like salt water. It's pretty dry and barren in the summer, but he was working on her, she had a little apartment building, so he's always going to work on it. I remember driving home once with him, and our car broke down, and a police car drove us to the station, climbing a boulder in the back seat with my turning it into the cop. And, he just set an example for us, and I think one of the reasons we're addicted to sugar is favorite times for our family with doing a heyday cookies and Nutter Butter sugar wafer runs for my mom, and we'd all jump in the car and come back, or we had ice milk, we didn't get the ice cream, Neapolitan, so we all got strawberry, chocolate, vanilla. Those were times because my dad was with us, and I think now I'm trying to break the habit of always, when I see my sister, hey, I brought cookies, you see the back table, that's for me, like half the table food, half dessert. Because, I remember driving to Mercer Island, because we were going to Dairy Queen out there, when there was one out there. Those were the fun times of family being together. And he was just always generous, that's one thing. Loaning tools to friends, equipment. I remember a friend of mine's car ran to a curb, broke it down. He let her borrow the truck for a week, his pickup truck. He had a friend he never met of mine. He loaned him like $3,000 for a motorcycle so we could ride together. Like, I vouched for him, but he never met him. That's how generous he was. He just gave him with his time and resources. I remember calling my parents at night, and they'd be in Tacoma at 9 p.m. I'm like, where do you go to Tacoma? Oh, there's a couple that go to Gary's, my uncle's events, to see all the parks, and we drive to Tacoma, so we don't have to ride the bus late at night. Like, can you get a lift or a cab? That's They like to drive, one thing, but they like helping people. So it wasn't a chore, where I don't know how many people did inconvenience. They enjoyed that kind of stuff. Like I said, and I just remember him never asking for anything in return. If you had a black cup of coffee, that was enough. He was just always generous, like I said, and he modeled that for us. I remember working in a crawl space, doing some plumbing at the house, and I'm like complaining, I wish I didn't have to do this. And I remember my dad came down to Portland, 3 hours, almost 70, under the crawl space with me, doing a project earlier. What am I griping about? If he could do it, I could do it. And that's just how I was. And I didn't want to leave anything out here, I probably did, but I remember as a kid, so the ugly was kind of the thing. The bad was just my regrets. My regrets as a kid, holding the flashlight, when he's working on a motorcycle, fixing a car, doing some kind of material, sheetrock, and just saying, I'm daydreaming, I don't want to be here. My regrets is not taking that time to learn what he was doing, understanding and having that conversation. And I know everyone regrets not taking time to spend with family and grandparents and learning about their history and their lives, and their impact on others. So I shouldn't take it too hard, but that's my regrets. And I remember he came down and helped me replace my main water line. And I look back when 10, 15 years earlier, he called me on a Friday night, what are you doing tomorrow at 8 a.m.? Oh, I've already got plans. Oh, why? Oh, I need to replace my water line. And that's what he would do, though. He'd ask me right then, like, why didn't you ask me a week before? I think maybe it did go out a week before. So. But I regret not reciprocating that kind of help he showed us, and all of my sister, my grandkids, his friends, just always willing, inconvenience. I remember when I was dating my wife in Portland, my car broke down in Centralia. And so he drove another car, and Jeff came with him, and they towed that car back, and they brought me a car. And I'm like, do you want me to go back? No, keep going to Portland. Go enjoy yourself. I mean, that's how it was. It was like, it wasn't inconvenience for him, but just sacrifice. I only got 5 more here, guys. I remember him asking if I wanted for a kid. Hey, you want to go for a ride? I'm like, where are you going? If you need to know, you don't need to go. But missing out on the opportunities. I kind of admit being jealous when, as older, and he was playing with the grandkids at his house at birthdays and stuff, and somehow wishing that was me and my brother and sister. We didn't get a lot of that time. I remember playing catch with him once, debagging him. He tried. And I'm not going to analyze it or read into my dad. He is who he was. Later in life, I'd ask him questions to try to get to know him and ask about his marriage. You know, what do you think about marriage? And just, when you get married, you get married. You stay married. That was it. And if you knew his family, every member of his immediate family was divorced. And it's just a testament that he stayed committed. And I always say I don't think my parents legally, spiritually, or whatever way you want to say should be married. I'm glad they are, and they stayed married. And every marriage has their up and downs, but that I just think kept my brother and sister and me together, bonded. I asked him about early jobs, and he used to work at the Riverton Heights Hospital out here. And I said, why did you do that? Well, they trained us how to hold linen. He was in the linen department. And we did it a certain way. And one day we were short people, so the boss said, let's take a shortcut and skip a couple steps and just get them on the shelves. And he quit. He goes, if you do it right, you got to do it right. You know, if that's the way you're supposed to do it the right way. You don't take shortcuts. So, again, he may have been playing into that a little bit. But I remember he did go to rehab, and it's just my dad. He told us a story where he went to the city councilor with his hand in his pocket, sitting down, and the counselor was trying to tell him how closed-minded he is. He needs to let himself, body posture. He's like, well, my hands are cold. No. You gotta let your hands. You're in that closed position. No, feel my hands are cold. So I think there's always a grain of salt with that, but that's kind of my dad. Very stoic, even-keeled, not emotional. My mom kind of covered that side of it for us, and he was the stable kind of side. I never heard him regret a decision he made in his life. I never heard him second guess himself. It's just life is what it is. Good, bad, ugly. You just do what you do, you move on. You just take the next step. Oh, it didn't work? Well, let's try this. And he was just a rock. Just this way, if I'm crying up here, you're probably calling me a girl or something. For those who be correct. I'm not sorry. I remember later in life, I'm slowing down, I realized he's not Superman anymore. I don't think I ever knew this. A stronger man. Just physically, the things he did by himself with help. And there's like nothing he couldn't do. I just remember later in life when he asked for help and how that was like, wow, you're mortal. He always gave of his time, talents, and treasures. I would never change my family for the world. All those early days wishing it was different. I love my mom and dad and what they taught us in generosity, values, caring for people, taking care of people, pulling over off the side of the road to help somebody push their car off, changing somebody's tire. That's what he did. Somebody knew it didn't know. It never was an excuse. And I try to emulate that. Our big worry was he saved? And he had to go to Christian school. He allowed my mom to raise us Christian in the faith. And this is school, and many of the school events, church events. I like to think of James 2:4, 25 and 26. 2:24, 25. You see then how that by works a man is justified, not by faith only. Likewise, also was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers and had sent them out another way. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead. I know he believed in God because he's too smart not to. And I do believe my mom has said he accepted Christ several times, confesses Christ, and works in faith, we debate that later. But if there was ever a man to show what a Christian is in his works, that was my dad. I'll close in this. Some of you probably use it. My dad had a magic garage. No matter what you needed, tool, piece of wood, piece of metal, scrap, whatever, he had it. And he knew where it was at. Dad, do you have a headlight for a 57 DeSoto? Oh, let me look in the garage. I didn't have a DeSoto, but piece of wood, piece of metal, something. And I try to do that with my wife, and she doesn't believe when I don't want to throw something away. But someone's going to need it. And it's happened a couple times where I actually had something and knew where it was. But my wife would like a miracle garage where we could actually park the car in it. So I don't know if that will happen. But again, thank you guys for coming. And I really appreciate it. And I know you guys meant a lot to my dad. He loves serving people. And you guys give him a lot of opportunities. So, thank you very much.
Okay, sorry, I meant cry too. First of all, my dad was a recovering alcoholic for the last 30 plus years. My kids and his grandkids know a different man than maybe we grew up with. And even when he was the bad, he was good. Anyway, I can already feel my dad with his awkward arm around me and saying, "No, don't cry," because he wasn't a big hugger or a crier. When Forrest was in 5th grade, he was learning about apples. So my dad joined the kids and I as we made a trip to Yakima and interviewed Jeff's Uncle Dale and Aunt Audrey, who owned an apple orchard. Dale was explaining the ins and outs of growing and caring for an apple orchard. And some of the things he did were because my dad used to say, and it made me think, what does my dad say and do that will leave a lasting impression on my life when he's gone? Number one was only buy American. He was a very staunch, like, it's got to be American. I went with him to buy a truck off a lot. I think it was a Ford, I'm not sure. My dad said he wanted to buy it with cash. The salesman asked if he wanted to test drive it. He said, "No, isn't it new?" The guy couldn't believe that he had scored a sale in just a few minutes without any effort on his part. Then he said he'd have to see if they had the one my dad wanted off the ship yet. My dad said, "What do you mean, off the ship? Aren't they made in America?" "Yes, but they're assembled overseas." There was no sale. That was one angry salesman. He ended up buying a Dodge Ram without test driving it because it was new. Number two, mess with the bull, you get the horn. I know my kids heard that a lot, or often from me if they were ever having a trial with someone else. Three, I'm rough and tough, hard to bluff. I pick my nose and eat the stuff. I think we'll scratch that one. But my dad was hard to bluff. He was very smart and intelligent. And another car story, a lot of car stories. He did bless all of my kids, and myself and my husband, my brother, my nephew, with new cars. And he had set up buying our Suburban, and I just needed to come sign the papers. I had Rachel and Connor and Ella with me. They were little. So it was supposed to be this quick, easy, sign the papers and go. My dad went over the contract and said, "Wait a minute, this is like a couple thousand more than you told me." And he said, "Oh, that's a mail-in rebate. Sales off. We are not doing that." Quickly, the salesman went back and negotiated. "Okay, you got your price. You don't have to mail it in." Number four, it doesn't matter how much it costs as long as it's free. My dad and I love getting free stuff. Anyone who knows me, I love anything free. If it requires driving a half an hour, buy one, get one free. We like free. Although there are a few of the things I heard him say often, what I truly remember and hopefully reflect through my life is a willingness to help anyone with just about anything. When I needed help with transportation for Forrest and eventually my other 3 kids, as well as their cousins, for school, he bought a limo. This might be repetitious, sorry. So he could be the bus. He would take them all for treats after school and attend school functions, treating all 7 of them like his own. When Naomi asked him if he could pick her up from the airport at 4 a.m., he said he'd be honored, and of course picked her up in style in the limo. When I wanted to take the kids to swim lessons or special events in town, my dad would come and be a second set of eyes to keep them safe. If you called him and were broken down somewhere, needing a ride anytime, night or day, he'd be on his way immediately, usually with some kind of solution, and either get you to take you to where you can get it fixed, or get you on your way. If we had a leak or a problem, or even a project with the house, he'd be there with knowledge, tools, and be ready to help. If I was ready to give up because I didn't seem like there was a solution or a fix, he would always say, "Now wait a minute, let me think about this."